Nintendo has given us a couple details on what this online playtest is. They announced it a few weeks ago and people have leaked it. There's some interesting things that we found out about this game, but we can't show images, so I have a couple things written down that they've told us, and then we're going to discuss what we think this game could evolve into. The game's purpose, according to Nintendo, is that in this game, the goal is to work with others to fully develop a massive, expansive planet utilizing creativity and farmed resources. As you progress across the planet, you'll discover new lands, enemies, resources that will become essential to your journey. This just sounds like Minecraft. From the images, it looks a little different, but I think it's a super interesting concept because they really haven't done any of these like massive multiplayer games in the past. Like we've had multiplayer like games like Splatoon, but this is like a creative community-based game.
Yeah, Nintendo's never done an MMO, and clearly they are now. One interesting thing about Minecraft is this, obviously, it looks kind of like that in the sense of, oh, okay, there's a giant online world, you explore it, but it also seems to be a very Nintendo-fied version of that. And what I mean by that is you have this like beacon thing that I'm not entirely sure, because again, we don't have the playtest. We're only running off of like a leaked game design document pretty much explaining this for people who have the playtest. But this beacon, you place it on an area and then you're the only one who's allowed to build in that area. So it's kind of like a Nintendo-fied version of Minecraft in the sense that they completely get rid of any like griefing or player-to-player combat. It looks to be entirely PvE based. And I mean PvE in terms of like players versus enemies, because there will be enemies that you have to take down to conquer and light up new land. Also PvE in terms of player versus environment, because you're constantly trying to find new areas that you can build upon and settle in and place your beacon down and claim that area as your owner. I have no idea besides that what this game could end up being, but it looks really, really cool. I just like it whenever Nintendo tries something new. A lot of times when they try something new, it's like a damn alarm clock or something. So this is like trying something new that's big within the video game space. This has the potential to be a huge game, definitely a potential system seller for Switch 2.
The first thing that I kind of noticed after reading through all of these leaks and stuff like that, there was certain language in this document that was really cool. They say gameplay on our servers. And in the past, we've kind of said peer-to-peer. But Nintendo dedicated servers, that's like massive considering, they are behind, to be fair, compared to like, the other big three in gaming. Dedicated servers overall, that's like a really exciting announcement that I kind of took from this. Maybe this is a Switch 2 exclusive, if this is even going to be a game that we're going to see again, hopefully. I mean, yeah, very Minecraft-like, kind of interesting. Nintendo has never done something like this before. MMOs are just in uncharted territory for them, so it's just exciting.
Do you want me to explain how the beacons work? Because I think they're really,
Sure.
really interesting how they work.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So, throughout your adventure, players will be granted special tools known as beacons to emit healing light that purifies and develops land. The higher your beacon is placed, the wider its beacon zone becomes, and within your beacon zone, your best work can be done. Like you said, it kind of claims the land and I think removes any enemies that were within that area, but I think it's super interesting the way the beacons work, that the higher you build them, the more the dome around your beacon zone is. So I think a lot of it will be about building towers to place your beacon to claim the most land.
I'm assuming there's going to be a cap on that, because if there is no cap, then an infinite height glitch would ruin the server, because you could just go up super high and claim way more land than you could ever use. But it is interesting that in order to claim the land in the first place, you're going to have to try and build something without it being claimed. You're going to have to try and build something before placing the beacon so that you can place the beacon high up. It's just an interesting little concept they have going on here. I'm very curious to see how it pans out. I don't think we've ever seen a Nintendo game that has this much emphasis on the social aspect of it. This game probably won't have any voice chat. It will probably have maybe preset emotes you can click in Mario Party as the most in-depth form of communication. Yep. But even still, they could have no form of communication, but there's still going to be personal agency.
Well, here's the thing. In the rules of the playtest, it specifically says do not share personal information with others, which means that you can communicate with others.
Wow. Okay, maybe that's in terms of placing down a sign. I'm curious how well it goes, because if there is just one big server that everyone is playing on, it's gonna have to be a big server. And then also, how necessarily do they deal with the first thing that comes to mind, any game where you can build anything, people are going to be drawing certain
Stuff.
body parts.
Profanity.
Yeah, there's going to be stuff all over this game. And I saw in the documents there's an ability to report things. They want to make it super snappy, super quick, easy to report things. But even still, that's a lot of customization for a company that has notoriously restricted customization specifically so they can keep this family-friendly kind of mentality intact. Yeah, I'm just curious to see how it goes.
There's a lot about this that speaks more to like a mature audience. Like you had to be 18 plus to play this. From what I've seen, I think you can communicate with others. Like there's a part about the dev core, which is like a space where you can like level up your character, get items, and communicate with others. It literally says like communicate with others. This is like gotta be their most social game that they've ever made. I think that's probably why this playtest exists, because it's like this is one of the most different things Nintendo's ever done.
Yeah, and definitely also to test the dedicated servers, as PJ mentioned, because we haven't had that before.
So excited about that.
Yeah.
Honestly, this might be a hot take. That's the most favorite thing that I have out of this entire leak announcement and everything. Dedicated servers, dude. Been waiting so long for that. Like,
yeah, hopefully they
awesome.
bring those over to like
Literally,
Mario Kart,
to Smash
Bros.
Mario
Party,
Kart, yeah,
all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's all we really have, and it's not a lot of information, but I think it's just enough information to figure out what this game can be, will be, when it'll come out, how far in development we think they are. Personally, I don't think we're that close to like a release. I think if they're doing like a beta this early in development, because from the images we've seen, it doesn't look like a fully fledged game at this point. Yeah. I would be surprised to see this game come out in the next year and a half.
Now we've kind of gone over everything the game has. Now we can get into the fun part, which is the speculation. I was going to kind of say the opposite. I mean, obviously we don't have a ton of like gameplay. I don't think we have any gameplay yet, but low-key, I could see this being a Switch 2, maybe not launch title, but first year for sure. Potentially launch also, because the fact that they're doing the playtest on the base Switch makes me think that it's going to be a dual release, like it'll release on Switch and Switch 2 at the same time. Having that maybe not at launch, because you want your launch games to be exclusive, but pretty close after could be the move from Nintendo's point of view. I also I wouldn't read too much into necessarily the graphics, because this does kind of seem more like a server stress test than anything, and kind of just making sure they have the online functions down, like the reporting function down, all that sort of thing.
I kind of like that idea of the launch title. Like, imagine Switch 2 launch titles just being a new 3D Mario, and this possibly, like, I mean, that would be really sick. This might be a hot take, but I think it's on the table that this could literally just be a tech demo, and that's kind of all we ever see of this game. Like you were saying, Thomas, like I think it's more of meant to be a server test and all that, rather than some massive new game. But again, I love to be wrong, because Nintendo's never done something like this before, so love to see it.
On the tech demo front, this is kind of an interesting point I wanted to bring up, but I think it was E3 2014, I believe. Nintendo showed off 2 tech demos for the Wii U, those being Project Guard and Project Giant Robot. Project Guard ended up being included as a side mode in Star Fox Zero, and then Project Giant Robot was shelved and eventually became Nintendo Labo, the kit number 2, I believe, the robot kit. So yeah. Nintendo is no stranger, to your point, PJ, of having these sort of tech demos, sitting on them for a while, and then eventually when they think the time is right or they've had enough time to cook, then coming out with what the tech demo actually is. You know, I'm obviously optimistic. I was saying, hey, maybe it could be next year, Switch 2 at some point, but it's entirely possible that this isn't something we see for a while, and maybe it's more of a server stress test to see if their online servers could work and, you know, how they would do an MMO rather than, oh yeah, we're just testing out the servers and, you know, we got the game already. We're just trying to see what people think.
I'm kind of split between those two. I personally don't think that they would release a playtest out into the public that like has gotten this much attention if this game isn't going to release. I think the tech demo route, it's an interesting one to think about, but I think there's a lot of interesting things about this specific game. There's a lot that I think can be done with this game, and I personally think it'll come out eventually as a game on the Switch too.
Yeah, to be fair, we've never seen anything like this before, just in terms of the playtest, because again, we don't really have a baseline to go off of, considering that Microsoft and Sony have had dedicated servers for their games pretty much forever. This is a new thing for Nintendo. So to be fair, the way they're going about this isn't really that surprising, because obviously you want to have reliable, dedicated servers rather than it just being a crapshoot of issues. It's obviously a great idea to test it obviously before it's going to be a thing on the Switch too. To Thomas's point, this could become like a game later on that obviously we don't know about yet. So that's an exciting thing to think about.
Yeah, one more point I had on the speculation front is the graphics for this game. From what we see, it's entirely original. There's no existing IP or whatever. But obviously these graphics probably are, or at least very easily could be, exclusively for this playtest. Do you think when this game comes out, it would be some form of an actual like Nintendo IP, or do you think it's a new IP? Because my mind instantly goes to this Animal Crossing video you did a while back, Mac, where it's the different towns. Yes. And it's one big open world. Everyone has their different plot of land for the town, and instead of like taking a plane, you can just walk over to someone else's town.
Much sense. And
that would be insane.
Yeah,
it's an Animal Crossing game.
Wow. I was looking at all of the photos that we're not allowed to show, and the characters and the graphics, they looked very like Rec Room on like VR. They looked very, very, very basic, and I don't think that's what this game is going to look like. I didn't really know if it's going to be like an original IP or something else, but now that you brought up Animal Crossing, this fits perfectly with that. It really is the next step of what New Horizons was, and I think can become if this is an Animal Crossing game.
No, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like, you know, obviously all of these Nintendo series, we've seen them take a massive jump, whether it's, you know, the Odyssey jump or Zelda going to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Like, we're seeing Nintendo take that massive step in their biggest franchises, and obviously since the 3DS and the Switch era, we've seen Animal Crossing kind of put itself as one of Nintendo's like biggest franchises. And this is, you know, if I never really thought about it, but it's kind of the logical next big step for the franchise to kind of go like this. So if this turns out to be an Animal Crossing game, this could be insane.
The more I think about it, it reminds me of a lot of the idea I had for the Animal Crossing video I had a few months ago. Like, I talk about buying building permits to build on other people's land. That's basically what the beacons are. Like, if you think about it, they work differently, but they kind of have the same thing where it's like you claim your land and then you build on it. And then you can walk around to other people's lands, or I don't know, but that gets me very excited for what this game is.
Obviously the Animal Crossing idea comes to mind, but also within this tech demo you're like fighting monsters apparently and stuff. That wouldn't really make sense within Animal Crossing. Although that could just be there to, you know, as a tech demo, like they're trying different things. Also, if you switch over, Jack, to the Game Builder Garage trailer, this is another interesting kind of take where Nintendo just kind of came in and was like, all right, we're going to teach people how to do like computer coding. And it's like, all right, sure. It's like a very dumbed down version of it, but that's kind of what Game Builder Garage was. And I wonder if the MMO game that this hopefully ends up becoming takes sort of this creation aspect from Nintendo, because Nintendo's always trying to get people to create within their games, whether it's Mario Paint, Mario Maker. Imagine like an MMO, it's all on one massive world, and then you can like claim your land with the beacon. You have to fight off the monsters to like clear your land or whatever, and then you can like make a game with the same, not very robust, but still, you know, more robust than like a Mario Maker type thing, programming language that Nintendo came up with for Game Builder Garage. I'm not entirely sure what it's going to end up being, but the sky's really the limit here for Nintendo.
I mean, it can't be bad. I don't think it can be bad. I don't know.
It'd be bad.
We'll
it would be bad if this
wood.
never turned into anything.
Literally.
If it doesn't help them anyway, that's the only way this could be bad. If it helps them create dedicated servers, that's great.
Yeah, well, I think that's a guarantee. I mean, if the next step for in terms of like online play is dedicated servers and they're making that like a Switch 2 exclusive or something like that, I mean, that would be pretty significant. That's something that I think people have complained about for a really long time. So even if this doesn't turn out to be a game, that, you know, that's very significant. So
I'm excited to see what this ends up becoming, because I think we'll have to wait a few years, maybe months, who knows. I really can't tell about what this is going to be, what it's going to become, but I'm very excited to see gameplay that we're not supposed to see in a few days when this this demo is released to the world.